one final question. Where are you going after the game tonight?
Tonight I'm going to the Berwyn Summerfest.
Okay. Ron, one more final question before you go into your hitters meeting. Where are you going after the game tonight?
I'm going to Berwyn Summer Fair.
All right.
Come out and see us.
Fantastic. Let me ask you a final question here. Where are you going after the game tonight?
Berwyn Summer Fair.
All right. You're the fifth one.
Thank you. You still feeling all right out there? I heard you say, woo! We want to thank you for putting us in the driver's seat today. We hope you had a good ride, and this is the vehicle that got us here today. Side of my car. I think that baby, I'm a local man. Take it to the nearest star. I don't need a baby. I need to take away from my road. I don't need a woman. When I'm sure you know that I love you, I need you. I want you to have a shot. Wait down in here when they know I'm wrong.
Welcome to our show. It's called
Sports,
Entertainment, and
People and Places.
And we are
Rich Nye
Jim Kapsa
and Bobby Considine.
So there you have it, folks. We're going to be talking about all of these categories on today's show. Hello again. I'm Jim Kapsa, and this is
Rich Nye.
And I know you're all confused out there because in the open of our show, you saw three gentlemen sitting here. I use that term loosely. You saw three guys sitting here. And one of our people is not able to make the show today, but he's not injured. I tell everybody that he's on the IL, which is short for injured list in the major leagues. But he's going to be back for our next show, and everything's fine. Don't worry about it. But Rich and I are going to carry on today. And Rich, you brought some samples from your new store that you just opened up, right?
I did, yes, absolutely.
And are you going to show? Are you ready to show them now, or should we wait?
We could do that now, for sure.
I got to tell you, fans out there, some of you just tuned in for the first time, I'm sure. But Rich Nye, former Major League Baseball pitcher, he played for about 6 years, I guess. Rich, right?
Actually, in the major leagues, 4 years and 3 days.
Oh, 4 years and 3 days. Well, he was with us. He was a rookie in 1967 with the Chicago Cubs, and he still holds the rookie Cubs pitcher record of 13 victories in his rookie season, which was tied in 1998 by Kerry Wood. And Rich also was a big part of the famous 1969 Chicago Cubs, who everybody thought were going to get to the World Series, if not win the whole thing. And we've talked about that before, but you're still sorry about that year, probably.
Yeah, I see a lot of people wearing a World Series ring that I don't have, and that was the thing we were shooting for. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't never about the money. It was always about that ring. You wanted to have that World Series ring. Yeah. Well, I did get a World Series ring from men's senior baseball, which is the old-timers form of non-professional baseball, and that was fun.
That's quite an accomplishment, by the way, because when Rich and Bob Considine, who is our other member who's not here today, they were on a team that won it all out in Phoenix, Arizona, playing in baseball heaven on all the spring training sites of the major league teams. And at that time, I don't know if you remember this, there were 330 teams in that tournament from around the world, including Australia, Canada, a couple from Europe I know came over.
Sure.
So it's quite some accomplishment. And now the Men's Senior Baseball League, the main one, there are several across the country, but the main one, they operate in age classifications of under 28, I guess, and then 28 to 38, 38, 48. Is that the way it goes now? 58,
something
60?
like that. It
And
goes
they
all the
even
way
have
up into
one-
the 70s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
up to the 70s now. But we're not going to talk about the men's senior baseball. We're going to talk about the Major League Baseball in just a few minutes. And just to give you a little preview of what's coming up later in the show, here's a menu from a restaurant that a good friend of mine owned. And it was right near the racetrack in Cicero, Illinois. And it was called Call Me Moose. And of course, this fella is Moose Skowron, very famous New York Yankee and Chicago White Sox, and even played in the World Series for the LA Dodgers against the Yankees one year in 1963, and they beat the Yankees in that World Series. But the reason I bring this menu from Call Me Moose is because later on in the show, you're going to see an interview that I did. Actually, it was at a memorabilia show in Rosemont, Illinois, in 2007 or 8. I get the years mixed up, but it was way back then. And on the show, this show today, you're going to see Moose Skowron, along with my other good friends, Andy Pafko, who was once the favorite Chicago Cub in the entire Midwest. He played center field most of the time, but one year he played third base and made the All-Star team as a third baseman. Plus, you're going to see, and we're talking about World Series rings, my old friend Johnny Logan, who played shortstop for the Milwaukee Braves in 57 and 58 when they won the World Series in 57 and lost to the same team, to the Yankees, the following year in 58. So that's what you're going to see in the second half of our show. But let's get to your samples here. You've got some intriguing samples.
Well,
First, you want to tell them about your store. I glossed over the store.
It's actually a gallery. It's called the Fox Valley Gallery of Wood. It is in the downtown boardwalk shops of downtown Batavia. And these are just little buildings, 12 by 12 foot buildings that have startup businesses in it. And as I tell people, this is our second year in this little building. And the reason we were allowed was we're just a bunch of old guys. I've got 3 partners that are wood turners like myself. And I said, we're a bunch of old guys that don't want a full-time gig. So we, 3 days a week through a season is just great. So everybody's happy with that.
So you just do it on weekends, right?
This is just a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, and it goes from Memorial Day weekend, which was 2 weekends ago we opened up actually, and it goes through the 3rd week in December.
And
so
you have 2 partners, and you take turns in the shop?
I have 3 partners, and all coming from different walks of life, but our common interest is we love wood, and we love to turn wood. So turning wood is making things round. This is a bowl that I made out of madrone burl. It's about a 10 or 11 inch salad bowl. Food safe, ready to go. Useful things we make, okay? Kitchen items. Here's a little, it could be a cereal bowl. Got a nice round bottom on it, made out of local wood. Kentucky coffee, I think.
That's the kind of wood it is?
That's the kind of wood it is.
Coffee?
Kentucky coffee tree.
Interesting.
Kentucky
Never
coffee
heard
tree.
that one before.
It's a beautiful tree and beautiful wood. And then you get things that are artistic. And from an artistic point of view, this is a burl that came from wood that was from, it's called briar burl, and it's from the UK. And I'm not sure where I got the wood itself, but I decided to make a little hollow form. And hollow form is just a hollow piece that you can feel is very thin, and this one has a little defect from the bark that was in there, but this is just a fun piece of wood.
So is this actually for holding flowers or something like that?
You could put.
You can't put water in there. It
You're
would leak
not
out.
going to put water in there, no. But you could put dry flowers if you wanted to do that. But basically,
It looks kind of neat.
As you feel it, it's neat to feel. Wood is very sensual.
Conversation piece too. Right?
Absolutely a conversation piece.
I like it. Yeah.
Yes. So, and I've got it on my shelf. I love the feel of it, and I like the history, where it came from. This is a piece that is also hollow form. You can see there's a little tiny hole there, and the way the thing is carved on the inside, all the shavings that you created in this have to come out of that little hole. So as this is spinning on the lathe to make this
I was
rough,
going to
rough
ask you
form,
how you made that design.
well, the rough form is going to turn out to be smooth like this to start with. And then you have to lay out a pattern on the outside of this, and the pattern looks like the outside of a globe. You've got meridians and you've got parallels. And you form little boxes here. In order to make the spiral effect, you join the corners, the opposite corners of the box, like you go across a diagonal. And that follows all the way up, and it creates this spiral form. And then using a high-speed drill, handheld, you follow these lines and you actually carve the little
Wow.
swirls in there. So
You did a great job on this,
Thank
too.
you. That's a
You're
piece of
giving
the
me
key.
a mini course in
yeah,
wood turning.
absolutely. That's the way it's got to be
Fantastic.
done.
Yeah.
And I
Those
learned
two intrigue me.
And I learned these all from, experts that are creating museum pieces. They show you the technique, and so Paul Fennell was the one that taught me how to do this particular technique. To make the hollow form, this was David Ellsworth. He's a well-known wood turner, and I like to think of him as a friend. Then I just recently took a course from a lady that makes walking bowls and walking
Walking bowls.
pitchers. Yeah, well, these are bowls that have legs on them, or walking mushrooms. So this is a little mushroom, and if you look really closely, which you can't see, but you can see that. Look at the inside of the cap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looks
That's
like
all
it's
detailed.
a mushroom.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
detail. And I made this cap so that you could remove it, because they said you needed to sign the piece, and I didn't want to sign on the outside here, so I signed right there.
Very nice.
Little tiny.
Mushrooms
on
are
this one.
very important in our area because
Absolutely.
the western suburbs of Chicago are known around the country, maybe even the world, for mushroom hunters. And they're out there
Absolutely.
every weekend, probably
Absolutely.
during the week too, hunting mushrooms.
So this is a little walking mushroom. The body is made from myrtle wood, which comes from the west coast of California, or west coast of the United States, I should say, Northern California. And the legs are made out of, and the cap is made out of black and white ebony.
Wow.
So the black and white ebony, where does that come from? Africa,
No kidding.
South Africa.
So that piece came from Africa then
The
originally?
wood did, and it just came as a block, and I end up carving these things. Yeah.
By the way, viewers, the Czech name for mushroom is hobby. And in the western suburbs, especially in Berwyn and Cicero, there is a hobby parade every year. And I don't know how many years it's been going on, but I know since the 1970s at least, this hobby parade, we attract all kinds of celebrities. Svengoolie was once our grand marshal. Remember Svengoolie? Berwyn! But he was
Yeah.
here. I invited him to come to Berwyn one year, and he was the hobby parade marshal. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt your presentation.
So the last piece is a pitcher with legs. So handle's carved, the legs are carved, and it's got a little cap here which comes off. So this is a pitcher. The pitcher's made out of a Southeast Asian burl called Painma burl. The legs
Amazing.
and the handle and the cap are made out of koa. And if you look at the cap, right on the top, there's a heart carved.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Beautiful.
And on the bottom,
Good carving job there.
And on the bottom, there is a little detail that is done on an ornamental lathe,
Very nice.
just to decorate.
Let's hold that up. Maybe we can get a close-up of that. I'll hold it up like this, and maybe you can get a close-up of this.
So, and that just fits in the top of the pitcher. But the fun part about it is, if you take the bottom of this off, you've got a little box. It's a little hydro
Yeah.
box. And
Put a
you could
ring in
put
there or
that's
something.
basically what it would be for. You
It would be for somebody that's thinking of getting engaged.
absolutely could give this
present
as a
the ring.
gift. Absolutely.
Now,
So,
let me ask you this. These are things that people can buy in your shop in Batavia, right?
absolutely, yes.
And approximately what is the price range you're talking about here? Of these?
Well,
it's got to be expensive coming from Africa and United
well,
Kingdom.
something like this might be $160, $165
Not bad.
just because of the work. This was about $185. This actually, it says it's $225. This takes quite a bit more time and work, and some of this the artistic pieces are for form
Good
for,
catch.
Yeah, thank you. For
You never made
form,
many errors. I remember that. You were a very good fielding
good
pitcher.
hands, good hands. But it's for form. It's for how does it look? Is it pleasing to look at? And then you start thinking about the amount of hours that you put into creating a piece, and the price goes up.
And how many hours would you say it took you to make the Hobie, as an example, the mushroom?
Well, this whole neck is carved separately.
Mm-hmm.
The legs are carved differently. I would say probably 4 to 6 hours.
Oh, yeah?
In that, and this little thing probably took 30 hours.
Wow.
Just as a guess.
That would let me out. I couldn't concentrate.
Well, that's the nice thing about wood
You have to
turning.
focus, right?
Oh, you have to focus when you're doing it, but you don't have to finish it all at one sitting. So I keep coming back, and a piece like this, it might take you a week and a half, 2 weeks to finish, but you get started and you get a flow going.
Yeah.
It's just like when you're making a bowl. You get a flow going on it, and you end up with the kind of shape that you want. And if you look, this is just got really beautiful burl.
Yeah.
That's burl, the little eyes that you see there.
And this is a local wood, right?
Oh, no, not
No?
local. This comes from the Pacific Northwest. It's called madrone.
Ah.
And it is famous for the wood and for what the wood does if you turned this when it was wet, like it first cut off the tree.
Yeah.
And you turned this and you let it just sit, this would be just contorted shape. It
Really?
changes, it warps more than any other wood that
So how
I've
do
ever
you
worked with.
prevent that?
Well, what you do is, when you make a rough form, then you take that form and you put it in a pot and you boil it. And what that does is, that allows, with the heat and the water, allows the stress that's in the wood to be relaxed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you let it dry slowly, and when it dries slowly, it tends to keep a pretty nice shape.
Give us the address once again of your shop in Batavia.
It is 114 East Wilson Street, and we are booth number 12. And
Very
it's actually
good.
not a booth, it's actually a little building. So
You can tell that this young man here can focus. And to be a major league pitcher, you have to have mental acuity. Most people think when you get on the mound at Wrigley Field, you just wind up and you get your signal, wind up and toss the pitch. It's not like that, is it? There's like a great deal of mental acuity involved.
you are focusing. And one of the things that when I was learning pitching, I felt it was really necessary to have good control. And that good control, if you have the catcher put a target anywhere in that strike zone, you should be able to hit that target 9 times out of 10 with a pitch. So fastballs, changeups, curveballs, sliders, whatever you're throwing, you need to have control and know where it's going. So when I see these fellows being hit in the game today, well, it's a totally different game than when I played.
Yeah.
And a totally different because when I played, you had a strike zone, but you had a much wider field of freedom to pitch.
Yeah.
You could knock guys down, brush them back.
Bob Gibson would knock them in the ribs once in a while, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you weren't fined for that. You weren't thrown out of the game for that because that was the way the game was played. The pitcher has to have some control over the game. Right now, if the pitcher doesn't throw the ball 95 miles an hour, he's at a disadvantage because he has to keep it within the strike zone. If he goes out of the strike zone with a high fastball, for example, and if you watch these hitters, the hitters today all have this protective gear. They've got side things, they've got things on their arms, they got things on their legs, and I'm thinking to myself, they're in there for battle. Why am I limited and can't even throw at them?
Yeah.
Why can't I have my offensive opportunities? So when I watch it, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
And for anybody that's batting to be upset when the ball comes inside, I mean, that's the game.
Well, one of the things going on, is, as you are well aware, is I think it's StatCast puts this imaginary box in, and on TV you'll see it after the pitch with the box, and it shows where the ball would have been in that zone.
Right.
And you're talking about the plate being 17 inches wide. You didn't mention that, but it's 17 inches wide, and the black part on the sides of the plate are like an inch on either side. So now they're talking about, should we give that black portion to the pitchers and call the strikes on that extra 1 inch on either side?
Well, hopefully, and seriously, hopefully, they never take calling balls and strikes away from the home plate umpire. If they went on replay and said, oh, look, he made a bad call. Well, you know something? They make how many calls in a game, how many pitches, how many tough calls that are close. I know that when I played and Willie Mays was batting, you know, he got the benefit of the width of the plate, not me.
Yeah.
When it was Dal Maxfield, a 230 hitter, great guy, great hitter, but he 230 big league average, I got the benefit of the black on the sides. I mean, it's interesting how that went, but you know, the umpire kept that in mind, and I think when I played, I think there was less of that and more of the consistency, always calling it.
Right.
If they see a pitcher that has that pitch that is always close to the outside corner, and it's you know, it's a beautiful pitch, you see the right hand go up most of the time. It's a strike, no matter who's batting.
A few
and
years
that's what
ago,
you like to see.
A few years ago, the Cubs and the Atlanta Braves played in a postseason game down in Atlanta. I'll never forget this. And Tom Glavine was pitching for, he's now a Hall of Famer, pitching for the Braves. He was getting 1.5 feet outside, and they were calling him strikes, and the Cubs weren't complaining. I could never figure that out. They lost that game, by the way. He was pitching 1 foot outside, and the umpire strike,
Well, yeah, there's that. Obviously, that had to be scripted. I have to believe that.
Well, I don't know. The Cubs didn't say anything. They just took it.
Well, if he was consistent for their pitcher, you know, the Cubs pitcher, that would be fine. But again, he's a Hall of Famer, and really, you look at the Hall of Famer, and you look at his. If you drew that little frame of the rectangle around the strike zone and you watched him pitch a game, you'd see so many of his pitches to be in that zone.
Yeah.
They're in the zone.
Right.
And he's pitching high inside, but it's in that upper right-hand corner.
Right.
I say upper, I'm looking it's towards the right-handed batter, up on his, you know, up under his shoulders type thing. And they've changed the size of the strike zone as well. You know,
well, what I haven't
bottom
figured
of the knees,
out,
top of the knees.
as a fan looking at a game on TV, I still haven't figured out when the StatCast imaginary zone gets put up on the screen. It seems to me like it's the same zone for 6'6" batters as it is for 5'10" batters. It doesn't look like they've changed it at all.
And I don't really know how they do that. I really don't know.
I
would suspect that it's set in there as they put the player in, they set it in there.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're going to continue with this in a moment, but first we're going to show you something that I just told you a little bit about earlier in the show, and that is an interview that I did quite some time ago at Rosemont, in Rosemont, Illinois, at a memorabilia show with my good friends, Moose Skowron, Andy Pafko, who was once the best or the most favorite Chicago Cub, and Johnny Logan, who was one of the best shortstops in the National League for the Milwaukee Braves. So here is that film clip right now. I hope you enjoy it.
At the Sports Collectible and Autograph Show at the Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. And I'm in baseball heaven here because I'm sitting among 3 of my old friends, and these guys have been on the Pro Sport Report before. And the only one that's only been on one time is my old buddy Johnny Logan right here. The other 2 guys have been on several times, so I'll talk to Johnny first. Let me introduce all of these guys first. Bill Skowron, to your left, Andy Pafko, and Johnny Logan, all legends, baseball legends. Johnny, this is your first show down here in Rosemont, right?
Yes, it is, and I'm very happy. I didn't realize the enthusiasm. And then meeting Bill Skowron. It reminds me of 1957 World Series.
Yeah.
He was the outstanding Yankee. I know they had Mantles and Skowrons and so forth, but Bill was the big clog of that Yankee organization.
You're making him blush.
Never mind, hey. When they said the Yankees, it's Bill Skowron. And the Polish regime.
Bill Skowron, you're embarrassed because of the laudatory comments here, but didn't you almost win that World Series? You hit you made the last out, but it was a hot liner down the third baseline.
The first time, in the first game, I hurt my back against Warren Spahn, and Harry Suitcase Simpson took my place. He went 0 for 18, and then I played in the last game, the 7th game. Bases were loaded. I pinch hit, and Eddie Matthews made a hell of a play to me at third base, backhanded the ball for a force out at third base. The Milwaukee Brewers beat us.
Braves, Milwaukee Braves.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, the Braves beat us the 7th game of the World Series, but the following year, 58, I had a 3-run homer to beat them.
Remember that one, John?
You said it. You see, we were the victorious individuals. And believe me.
57.
57.
Yeah.
And believe me, ask Andy Pafko how great this Milwaukee Braves ball team was.
Okay.
We had Crandall Ketching and we had Spawny and Burdette, them two crazy guys, good guys. But then we had Joe Adcock and then find Red Shandies and third base Eddie Matthews, and then we had a good right fielder named Henry Aaron,
Yeah.
and Billy Bruton, and Wes Covington. We had a good, solid ball team.
Did you mention Del Crandall?
Yes, a catcher.
Eight-time All-Star,
Yeah.
4 times Gold Glove winner, and Johnny Logan, you were a 3-time leader in fielding at shortstop. Your first 3 years with the Braves.
Ask Andy Pafko what a great ball team we had.
Andy Pafko, you were the main cog and one of the main cogs in the wheels of the 57-58 championship Milwaukee Braves, and you got some key hits, and you shared some duties with a rookie by the name of Bob Hazel, who couldn't even make the team the following year, right?
Isn't that amazing, boy? When he came up, we gave him a nickname, Hurricane.
What?
I mean, he came in like a hurricane, but then he went out like a light. I mean, he couldn't do anything after that.
Yeah. And that was the 1957 World Series where Lou Burdette was the MVP, won 3 games over the Yankees. And Bill Skowron, how come you guys couldn't hit Lou Burdette? What was his secret?
I don't know. He was, one thing, he was an ex-Yankee. At least an ex-Yankee beat us. Because he was with the Yankees. He took a penicillin shot, and it break out with hives or something. He got a lot of, and that's when the Yankees traded him to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
And Bill Skowron, you're a Chicago boy. You know, Andy Pafko's a Wisconsin boy. Endicott, New York is Johnny Logan here, but he's.
But I've been in Milwaukee for 50 years.
Yeah, well,
I'm
so
a
you're a
Milwaukee.
Milwaukeean, right?
And I played in Binghamton, New York, where Johnny was from.
Oh, did you? I
Endicott,
didn't know
yeah.
that.
That's my first
played
year.
there, too?
I played in Binghamton also.
Oh, wow.
See that?
See that?
Go home.
I came from a big city.
I'm learning all kinds of things here.
Home of IBM, International
Really?
Machine
Ah,
Company. My
okay.
mother wanted me to become an IBMer, but unfortunately, I just took off like a bird.
You prefer hitting the ball and catching
You
the ball,
said it.
right? Well, Bill, I know that you went to Weber High School, right? And you were a left-footed punter, and you got a scholarship to Purdue?
Purdue University, and then after Hank Strand was my football and baseball coach. And after my sophomore year, I won the Big Ten batting championship, and the Yankees offered me $25,000, and I quit school.
There you go.
The Cub Scouts saw me hit 4 home runs off of 4 pitches, never gave me a contract. Thank God I go to bed at night. Got 7 World Series rings and a World Series watch. I have to give that dig.
What's the matter with the Cubs scouting department?
I have no idea.
Of course, they did sign Andy Pafko. Andy, tell us about you played 1 year of minor league ball, right, in Los Angeles?
I played 3 years in the minors.
Oh, okay. The last year was L.A., right?
Yeah, I played in L.A. We won a pennant by 21 ball games, and then the Cubs had about 13 games left to play, and they called me up at the end of the season. And
How'd you do?
I'll never forget, first 2 times up, I got base hits and drove in 4 runs. I said, this is a piece of cake. But I found out it's not quite that easy.
Not that easy, right? Well, I'll tell you, these fellas are all here at the Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont. They're going to be signing autographs, so we're going to have to let them go. I could sit here and talk for hours with these 3 guys. You can see that they're all good buddies, even though Logan and Pafko were arch enemies of Bill Skowron most of the time when they were playing, right? Did you guys, were you friendly when you were playing, except when you went between the lines?
Well, we were like camaraderie. We had a lot of fun. We talked to each other, but once the game started, that was it.
Yeah.
See, we were not allowed to talk to the opposition. We'd sneak around and say, but today I see all these modern-day ball players, they hug each other.
Yeah.
I don't know what, it's a big fraternity today.
Yeah, right.
Not
That's
like years ago.
What do you have to say about that? You you were noted for being a hard-nosed guy. As a matter of fact, I heard that when the Braves weren't going well, your manager would come up to you and say, Johnny, why don't you start something out there and give us a little fire?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I had a great third baseman named Eddie Matthews. He never knew how to start a fight,
He knew how
but
to
he
finish it.
he knew how to finish it. And unfortunately, you guys had a hell of a ball player named Hank Bauer. Oh, I'm telling you, he was an ex-Marine guy, and I'm telling you, he played
Still
it.
don't take no garbage from anybody. He's 82 years old, and he was the first Yankee I met when I worked out with the Yankees at Sox Park, and we're very good friends.
Well, Billy Martin was a scrapper too, right?
Not like Hank Bauer.
Well, nobody can compare to Bauer and Matthews, I guess, when it comes to letting them know what for, right?
Hank was a good friend of mine, even though he played on a different ball team, because I respected him.
Yeah.
And Eddie Matthews, I loved the guy. And unfortunately, things that happened to Eddie was unfortunate things. But, he's looking down at us.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell the fans out there that my friend Johnny Logan, who I've known for many, many years now, is the president of the Milwaukee Braves Historical Association up in Wisconsin. And they have 2 dinners a year, right? Just had one in November. And the next one's coming up when? March, April?
Possibly. The big one will be Red Shandy's in November time. And my favorite one of my favorite ball players is Andy Pafka. Always comes in there. And Red Shandy's, and I'm thinking of Red Shandy's and maybe Joe Morgan, who managed the Red Sox, and Shandy's managed the Cardinals. So you've got 2 National League individuals, or 1 American League, 1 National League.
Yeah.
And that's the key of what life's all about.
Well, you make sure you let me know when the date is so we can promote it for you.
Yes, and do me a favor. And these guys will sign with a smile.
Very good. And, one thing about these 3 fellas sitting here, Logan, Pafko, and Skowron, what Johnny said is absolutely right. They'll sign with a smile. A lot of times, professional ball players, it's like pulling teeth to get them to sign an autograph. But here's 3 of the best public relations guys in the history of the big leagues, as far as I'm concerned. And Andy, you especially, I know that you go to all the charity events. You go to Johnny Logan's dinners up there in Milwaukee. I shouldn't say Johnny Logan's. It's the Milwaukee Braves Historical Association, but Johnny Logan is the president. You've been to all of them, right?
Oh, I enjoy it because I'm from the old school, and the old timers, they love to see the old timers come back and sign the autograph, and I look forward to that.
And we got to get Moose up there. Moose, you haven't been to one of those yet, right?
I've never been invited, so how the heck can I go?
Well, you were a Yankee.
Tell everybody I said hello.
But maybe Johnny will invite you because you were one of the ferocious competitors of the Braves. Next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bill? And we pay, too.
Okay, we're back, and I hope you enjoyed that interview with Moose Skowron, Andy Pafko, and Johnny Logan as much as I enjoyed doing it. It was a highlight of my 36 years on cable TV. And I want to show you this. This is a record I did with the Chicago White Sox in 1981. It was the first year of the Jerry Reinsdorf, Eddie Einhorn group's ownership. And let me tell you who was on this. Carlton Fisk, Hall of Famer. Ron LaFleur, an outfielder who won the stolen base title in both the American and National League. Ed Farmer, ace relief pitcher, one of the best relief pitchers, and he was also on the broadcast team for, I don't know, maybe 20 years, wasn't he? Long time, right?
Absolutely.
And Ross Baumgartner, a pitcher from the north suburbs of Chicago. Mike Squires, the last left-handed catcher he was actually a first baseman, but he actually caught a few innings. And guess who was the manager of the White Sox in 1981? I'll give you a hint if you look down in the lower left corner here. His name is Tony La Russa. And Tony, as you all know out there, if you're any kind of a White Sox fan, is the manager once again of the Chicago White Sox currently. And here's an interesting combo right here. Jerry Reinsdorf, chairman of the Chicago White Sox, and Harry Carey. Everybody remembers that name. Matter of fact, they just had a toast to Harry Carey about a week ago down at all 6 of his restaurants. And Harry was in his last year of broadcasting on television the Chicago White Sox games. And the interview he did with Jerry Reinsdorf was probably, I don't want to say the last civil interview, but they had a falling out after that. And that's when Harry Carey went to the Chicago Cubs very shortly after. This was his last year broadcasting White Sox games in 1981. At the end of the show, we'll give you an address you can write to for more information if you're interested in obtaining an LP album. That's an LP album. Half of it is interviews and half is instructions for youngsters. And talking about youngsters, here's a book I recommend from every now and then. What Do You Think of Ted Williams Now by Richard Ben Kramer. I'll wait while you get a little close-up of that. And nice a shot of a pensive Ted Williams, and on the back you've got a smiling Ted Williams sitting down and trying to figure out which bat he wants to use. For those of you who haven't gone into the history of Major League Baseball, Ted Williams is probably the greatest left-handed hitter of all time. He's the last batter to bat 400. He batted 406 in 1941. And I don't think anybody will ever reach that mark again, because today they're batting 210 and 220, right? I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that true, Rich? Because
Multi-millionaire.
you look at this, you look at the score box scores in the paper.
Oh, it is different.
It's amazing.
It is different. Yeah.
How are these people in the major leagues batting 210 and 220?
Well, could it be that the pitching is that much better? I mean, you talk about
really?
when they were hitting, they weren't batting against balls that were coming at them at 95 miles an hour. What
True,
I'm getting at.
true, yeah.
So even if it's just a split second, if you're throwing the ball 85 miles an hour, not 95 miles an hour,
Yeah.
there's that split second timing of being able to see a better rotation of the ball, better direction of where it's going. So that might be a factor.
Yeah.
It could be a factor.
And of course, your favorite pitch, as you tell me all the time, was the changeup.
I
right?
love the changeup, absolutely.
Because the batter's timing is all screwed up when
Yep,
you throw a
yep,
changeup. Yeah.
yep.
Well, anyway, here's another book. This is called The Science of Hitting by Ted Williams and John Underwood. I'll let you get a close-up of this one, too. It's a very thin book, see? Some people like thin books, some people like thicker books. But this one has a lot of information and great photos in it. The Science of Hitting by Ted Williams. And for you people who are involved with Little League Baseball, Pony League Baseball, I know there's a lot of parents involved in Travel League Baseball. I have two grandsons who are in Travel League Baseball, and they travel all over the Midwest going to these games. They're good ball players, but their parents are driving them hundreds of miles to go to baseball games.
Absolutely.
You go along with that? You think that's a good idea?
You know what? If it's just a matter of playing the game. For me, it was wherever there was a game, I wanted to be playing.
Yeah.
I wanted to be part of it. So.
Right, right. So anyway, these are two books that you parents out there and grandparents, go to your bookstore. If they don't have these books, go to Amazon.com. I'm sure they can get them. And here's one for you really serious fans of baseball who would like to know more about the inner workings of baseball. This is called The Game. That's the name of it. The Game by John Pessah, P-E-S-S-A-H. Let me read to you the summary in one brief sentence. Inside the secret world of Major League Baseball's power brokers. And this is one of your thicker books. It's going to take you about a week to read this if you really concentrate. You can see by all the markers I have in here, I'm still reading this book. From time to time, I refer back to it. And if you want to know what's going on behind the scenes with the owners, the officials of Major League Baseball, etc., go out and buy this book. It's an eye-opener. Now, getting back to your Hobie and what's the other one? Do you have names for these, by the way?
No names, no. This is just a little a walking picture.
Well, you got to name it.
That's appropriate.
No?
I don't.
Walking pitcher would be good.
Walking pitcher's
There you
fine.
go.
This is a walking mushroom.
Now, that's a pitcher not like Rich, who was a pitcher, but a baseball pitcher. This is a walking pitcher. And the
Right.
other one is a walking mushroom.
Exactly.
Right.
And the artist that taught me this is Rebecca DeGroot. She's a wonderful artist, teacher, and artist for wood, but she's also a tattoo artist.
Really?
And does phenomenal
Has she
tattoos.
tattooed you?
Nope, she doesn't. she's from Ohio, so she only came into town to do the class. She didn't stay. But that's it.
But you could conceivably get a tattoo, right?
Yeah, well, my wife got the tattoos. I decided I didn't want tattoos.
I decided that a long time ago.
Yeah,
I couldn't figure out why anybody would want to deface their skin with a tattoo.
Well-
I still feel the same way. But don't get mad at me, you people out there with the tattoos.
See, you don't think
To
about
each his own.
Yeah, you don't think about it as defacing your skin. You think about it enhancing the look.
Okay. So there you have it.
And it's an art, without
Yeah.
a doubt.
Viewers out there, I have glossed over something very important. And I meant to get into this part of our conversation earlier in the show, but I got so interested in your wood carvings, I forgot to remind the fans out there that you spent and are spending, you have spent 46 years and are still spending a lot of your time as a veterinarian.
That is correct.
And on the last show, you brought I should have told you to bring that back again. The last time we talked about this, you had the cover of a magazine where you were featured on the cover with a huge rabbit that you held in your arms.
Right.
And a macaw on your shoulder.
On my shoulder, right.
And a turtle,
And-
right?
And my tortoise, right.
Tell the fans
Absolutely.
out there about your 46 years as a veterinarian and what you're still doing as a veterinarian.
Well, right now I'm currently working just 1 day a week at the Ness Exotic Wellness Center in Lisle, Illinois. And I've been doing exotic pets for 36 of the 46 years. I've been doing birds for the entire time, and that's where I got my interest. I worked out of school. I worked with Ted Lefebvre, who had a practice and was a well-known avian bird doctor, lecturer and author, and that stimulated me to look into birds as having something additional to a dog and cat practice that was going to be make me more special, sort of like to stand out, something that I could do. And so I've become well versed doing birds, and I met my wife. She proposed doing a all exotic practice.
I thought
And-
you were going to say she proposed to you.
Oh, no, no. She just proposed the business. No, we were just business partners originally,
Okay.
not married. But we started the first exotic animal hospital in the U.S. back in 1985, Midwest Bird and Exotic Animal Hospital. And that was when I really began to focus totally on exotic pets. And exotic pets are not zoo animals. These are animals that you have in your house, birds of any kind, and I have people that have chickens in their house, and they have geese and ducks in their house, turkeys in their house. They're pets. Small mammals like guinea pigs and hamsters and rabbits, ferrets, and reptiles. And some of the reptiles, and I grew up from California. My dad brought home a tortoise for me one day, and I had that tortoise for a number of years. There were two of them. He and his partner each brought one home, and one of them lived to be 75.
I was just going to say they live a long time.
Long
I've
time,
heard that,
long
yeah.
time. And, you know, we had some in our local, in our house now that is local in the Chicago area. And we had a couple, and we had them out in our pasture, and they got to be very, very big. And the sad part of having a tortoise in Illinois is they got to spend 6 months of the year in the basement because they can't be outside when the temperature
Yeah.
gets below about 50.
Yeah.
And after having them get to be this big, about 130 pounds,
Wow.
we decided to put them in our little van and take them down to a sanctuary in Arizona where
Really?
they are going to live out the rest of their life, probably longer than I'm going to live.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a
But-
son that has had turtles for a long time, but never had one that big. I think the biggest turtle he had was about that size, you know.
That's still a good sized turtle. That's a
He
good
had,
sized
he had
turtle.
some lizards too.
Yep, absolutely.
You handle lizards? I mean, you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you know, the reptiles, snakes, lizards. I don't do invertebrates. I don't do things like hissing cockroaches and.
Hissing cockroaches.
Yeah, this people
That's-
keep them as
that's a new one.
pets.
I
It is a
mean-
new one, absolutely. They're about that big. They sit in the palm of your hand. That's the female. The male's about a third that size,
Huh.
and they lay whole bunches of eggs.
Wow.
And it's it can become a mess.
Give the folks the address or a phone number for the place that you're affiliated
Well,
with now.
I'm at I'm at the Ness Exotic Wellness Center, and I can't remember. 1080 Maple Avenue in Lisle.
And it'll be on the credits at the end of the show.
Absolutely.
Too. Yeah. So get your scorecard and pencil ready, as they used to say at Wrigley Field.
And
Pat Piper used to say that.
And I'm still working there 1 day a week, and I do mentor the youngsters that come in from vet school.
Fantastic.
And we have students, so it's still kind of a fun, exciting thing for me to do.
And guess what? The managers of a lot of these senior baseball teams that are playing now, I'm not talking about softball, I'm talking about hardball. And this is what Rich and I were referring to earlier when we talked about men's senior baseball. We play with the hardball, just like the Cubs, the gloves and so forth. And a lot of the managers watching this show would like to have Rich on their senior baseball team because he can still pitch.
Yeah, it's a 45-mile-an-hour looping fastball now,
Yeah.
but a lot of strikes. I still throw a lot of strikes. I think that
Is
was
the changeup still your favorite pitch?
It's hard to change up on what I throw now, but I have to say that, and I've just forgot what I had to say. But that's fine.
There you go. I do that all the time.
It's at that age.
The clock on the wall is telling us we're starting to forget too much here, and that's about all the time we've got. Do you have any parting shots for the fans out there in the viewing audience?
You know, stay true to your feelings about which team you want to follow in baseball. Baseball is still a wonderful game. I'm not happy totally with all the changes they've made, and I'm not happy that it is so much influenced by money, whereas when I played, it was the love of the game. And you know, guys I played with said, "Oh, they're going to pay you to do that?" It was awesome. It was awesome.
I feel the same way. And, you know, Bob Considine, who was generally on set with us, was also a great baseball and football player in his college days. He was offered a contract with the White Sox. I know that. I was offered a contract with the White Sox when I played semi-pro ball for the Cicero Merchants many years ago. I won't give you any idea as to when that was.
Yeah.
But for the love of the game, that's why we played baseball and or football, like in Bob's case. And let me ask you, you come from California. You went to UCal Berkeley, right?
Yes, correct.
What was your hometown? Where was your hometown in California?
Walnut Creek, California.
And that's near?
That's in the San Francisco East Bay, and
Okay.
actually it's the home of Bill Rigney.
Oh.
And Bill Rigney used to be a professional player.
And
he was
manager.
also the manager of
Yeah.
the Giants at the time.
Yeah.
And I went to school, played ball with his son,
Oh.
Billy Jr., I think it was.
Now, how did you wind up with the Cubs? And they didn't. None of the California teams got a hold of you.
Well, I went to Cal Berkeley, and as a freshman, I had scouts looking at me, and my focus when I went to college was not becoming a professional baseball player. It was becoming an engineer. I was in the College of Engineering, and scouts came up after a game and would talk to me, and I go, "Oh yeah, that's interested I'm interested that you're interested in me, but I'm going to school. I'm getting an education. What am I going to do with baseball? I'll never make it. I'll never play in Wrigley Field, or I'll never play in Candlestick Park, which is where the Giants were, and I was quite a fan of the Giants at that time." And after my junior year, they had the very first baseball draft. I think it was 1965.
Yeah.
And I was drafted. I had the statistics. It's on my phone. Wrote that down recently. But it was not very high up. It's like I was number 232 or something like that in the national draft. But I was drafted by the Houston Astros, and they didn't offer me anything that was going to give me an incentive enough to leave school. Not a significant bonus, and you go and play in the minor leagues for $500 a month. I said, that's not much of an inspiration for me to give up my education. So their thought was, well, Rich Nye doesn't want to play ball. He just wants to get his education. And so there was a in-between draft I guess it was a winter draft. They had two drafts. They had a summer draft and a winter draft. So the winter draft, nobody bothered me at all. Then the following spring, they had the summer draft, and that's when the Cubs picked me up. And he came to me and offered me a contract and said, you know, we've send you to the minor leagues. We'll give you an incentive bonus, not much of original bonus, but an incentive bonus that if you play in AA ball for a year, or you play in AAA ball for a year, or you move up all the way to the big leagues, we'll give you bonuses accordingly. Well, it was wonderful. I signed the contract because I was going to make more money playing baseball in the summertime than I was at my engineering job. Came back the end of that year, the end of that summer after signing, spending, I think it was 2 months in the minor leagues. I jumped from A ball and joined the team at the end of the year in Candlestick Park, which was a thrill. And that progressive bonus was getting paid out. So in reality, in the first year I played, I got a nice sized bonus for that time.
Fantastic. Well, you're talking about the money or lack of money at the time.
Right.
That's probably one of the reasons that Bob Considine didn't sign. It was one of the reasons I didn't sign, because you couldn't live on that money.
No, totally.
Matter of fact, on one of our previous shows, I interviewed Red Schoendienst, who passed away recently, and he's a Hall of Fame second baseman. Many of his years with the St. Louis Cardinals, obviously, and then he played with the Milwaukee Braves when they won the championship in '57. And he said that he went to a tryout for the St. Louis Cardinals because he lived in Germantown, Illinois, which was close to St. Louis. And it happened to be the same tryout where Yogi Berra and Joe Garagiola, good childhood friends, they were all there at that same tryout, and they all got signed. But the money was almost nothing, you know. And Red Schoendienst said he was signed by Branch Rickey, and he told Branch Rickey that if he can't make the major leagues in 2 or 3 years, he's going to learn a trade and go to work. Well, they found out he could play, and he made the major leagues in the Hall of Fame. And that's all the time we've got on our show for today. Rich, I want to thank you for bringing your samples, and thank you for the work you're doing as a veterinarian still today. I know that's a labor of love, but
for sure.
For sure. And go out, if you're in the area of Batavia. At the end of our show, you'll have the address and phone number of Rich's shop in Batavia. Is there a name to the shop?
It's the Fox Valley Gallery of Wood.
Fox Valley Gallery of Wood. And go out and see Rich, and maybe buy a walking Hobie or a walking pitcher, this kind of a pitcher.
Right.
We'll see you next time on our show, which is with Bob Considine, and he'll be back. Sports, entertainment, people, and places. Thanks for being my co-host today rather than one of my tri-hosts.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll see you all next time, okay? Have a good day.